Oh, good evening, everyone. How you doing? We're supporting the Padres up here tonight. We're going to say, let's take three, or actually two of the three. And, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance tonight and the invocation, all that good stuff. And we're actually going to excuse Councilwoman Koval from standing, not because she's being lazy or disrespectful, but she actually cannot actually stand. Boy, this is getting old stuff, isn't it? All right, then. Enough of the joking around. We'll do more of that later. How's that sound? Okay. All right, we're going to call the meeting of the City Council to order May 14th, 2025, and it's 6:31 in the evening. Let the record reflect that we're all here with the exception of Dustin Trotter, who's out of town on business. So some of us still have jobs that we have to work. And so tonight the invocation will be given by a newbie to us. And we're welcome to have you here for two reasons. One is because you're willing to be here, and secondly is because you're actually a citizen of our fair city. So we're pleased to welcome Pastor Travis Ferguson from Christ Lutheran Church and School, located at 7929 La Mesa Boulevard in La Mesa, California. The roots of the Lutheran Church trace back to a prayer by Clara Bush, a devoted wife, mother of 11, and foster mother to many, who asked for a Lutheran church to be planted in La Mesa. Her prayer was answered in 1941 with the calling of Pastor Andrew Lucas to establish the congregation. The church's mission grew in 1958 with the founding of Christ Lutheran School. For over 65 years, the school has provided high-quality education from preschool through 8th grade to countless students and families. Pastor Ferguson leads a dedicated staff of about 50 people and oversees an annual operating budget exceeding $4 million. It's a pretty good church you got there. He guides the church and school with a clear mission, developing a community where people gather, grow, and live the way of Jesus Christ. His responsibilities include preaching, leading the executive team, planning worship services, visiting the sick and dying, offering pastoral counseling, and providing spiritual care. He also enjoys spending time with students, often joining them for kickball on the schoolyard. Are you grandkids or kids old enough to be out there yet?
I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Well, they're getting close. Let's see. Pastor Ferguson earned a BA in psychology and behavioral science from Concordia University in Seward, Nebraska in 2013, followed by a Master of Divinity from Concordia Seminary in St. Louis in 2017. He is currently pursuing a Doctor of Ministry degree with an expected completion date in 2027. Since 2014, Pastor Ferguson has served as a chaplain in the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, sir. He was deployed to Middle East from July 21 to January 22, supporting operations Inherent Resolve, Spartan Shield, Enduring Sentinel, and Allies Refuge, the largest non-combatant evacuation operation in U.S. history. He currently serves as the Individual Mobilization Augmentee, or also known as IMA, to the Wing Chaplain at the 43rd Wing and 432nd Air Expeditionary Wing at Creech Air Force Base in Nevada. We thank you for being here tonight. We ask you to pray for the United States of America, the state of California, the city of Santee, and of course, this city council. So tonight, let's see, I think I'm going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's all rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
God invites you to bow your heads with me as I pray, or simply to observe a moment of silence. Gracious God, we come together today as citizens and civil servants, giving thanks for the gift of this city and its beauty. In our world today, divided by so many voices and visions, we ask you to help us remember the ancient wisdom of Psalm 133, how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Grant us the humility to listen well, the grace to disagree respectfully, and the resolve to seek the common good. Tonight, we ask that you guide this council in that spirit of unity, not sameness, but shared purpose. Give them wisdom that listens, courage that builds, and a vision that looks beyond today to tomorrow. Encourage everyone gathered in this room to be instruments of your peace for the sake of the young kids playing ball at Rio Seco tonight, for the sake of the small business owner closing up their shop this evening, for the sake of the senior who depends on safe streets and steady services, for the sake of the neighbor who just moved in hoping to find belonging here, for the sake of the veteran who sacrificed much, and for the sake of the next generation who is watching to see how we lead. Be with us in Santee, good Lord, as we strive to do more due east. So may this city always be a place where neighbors become friends, where newcomers are welcomed, and where no one will be a stranger for long. I ask this in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hoorah. No.
Can't not hear it.
Can't not hear it. All right. The first thing that we're going to do is, first four things that we're going to do is an adjournment in memory of Mike Clark. I'll be down in just a moment to meet with Jan, hand her that. And then we're going to do a proclamation for Small Business Week, proclamation for Public Works Week, and then a recognition for Sheriff Lieutenant Joseph Jarjura. JJ. I knew I was going to mess that up. Jan, if you want to, you can just stay there. I know that getting around isn't as easy as it used to be. So this is Jan Clark, and Jan's husband, Mike, he passed away, and Mike was one of our very early council members in the city of Santee. Of course, the only person that's still employed here that remembers Mike is Pam. Sorry to throw you under the bus like that. And Mike actually left employment just before I actually came on the city council, because he left in the late 1990s. I came on early 2000s. And so I remember Mike and Jan sitting in the back of the room, keeping an eye on what we're doing. Somehow when you leave this kind of business, it doesn't leave you. And you always have this affection for the community that you served and the people who serve after you, if I can, say that. And I got to know Mike a little bit, so that's why I say that, because that's the way he kind of came across. And there are other council members and mayors who have left also who pretty much say the same doggone thing. So I know that when it's my turn to leave, the council, that is, I'm probably going to have that same affection. They'll probably see me wandering the halls. Well, maybe not. But we're not going to see Mike wandering the halls anymore, unfortunately. But he did enjoy watching us on TV once we went to the Santee TV. But more importantly, he enjoyed watching Padres. So we're going to do this certificate and adjourn tonight in the city of Santee in deepest sympathy. On the 14th day of May, 2025, the Santee City Council meeting adjourned in memory of Mike Clark. And this is signed by myself and all council members. You don't want to say anything? Boy, that's a first. Okay, thank you very much, and we're really sorry to see Mike go. Thank you. I'm going to let somebody else do these other ones.
Laura?
Yeah, Laura. It's okay. I saw that the Congress was working overnight, and some of the folks up there were sleeping on the dais. So, by the time you get around there, one of us might be asleep. All right, then. See, we can have fun here. So tonight for a small business, you know what? Vice Mayor, how would you like to do that proclamation?
Why, sure.
Sometimes we do this on the fly up here. Just see who's paying attention. Anybody having fun yet out there? I didn't think so.
I think James Sly, you coming up here to accept this? Come on up, bud. You just want everyone to see how short I am compared to James, huh? Okay, compared to everybody, but especially James.
You're sitting next to me. It doesn't matter.
All right, so this proclamation is from the city of Santee to recognize Small Business Week, National Small Business Week. James is the chair, or was it the executive director of East County Economic Development Council.
Big cheese.
He's the big cheese. So he helps many businesses thrive, fulfill employment needs, seek or attain government relief sometimes. Everything and anything that you can look for in a small business, James is there to help out with. So, whereas since 1963, the President of the United States has issued a proclamation calling for the celebration of National Small Business Week to commemorate the achievements and contributions of small businesses nationwide. Whereas the U.S. Small Business Administration, or SBA, has announced National Small Business Week as of May 4th to May 10th, 2025. And whereas there are over 33 million small businesses nationwide that represent a vital segment of the business community and play a key role in invigorating the local and national economy. And whereas according to the SBA, it is estimated that more than half of employed Americans either own or work for a small business, and they create about 2/3 of every 3 new jobs in the U.S. each year. And whereas small business owners represent the cornerstone of every community by creating business opportunities and investments, stimulating job growth, and boosting the local economy. Now, therefore, I, Rob McNellis, on behalf of John Minto, Mayor of the City of Santee, and the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim May 4th through May 10th, 2025 as National Small Business Week.
Quick comments, yeah. So my name is James Sly. I'm a native of Santee. I was born and raised here. We provide entrepreneurship training to about 2,000 East County small businesses a year. And I would like to say that Santee has been a wonderful partner both to us and to its small business community. So thank you very much for this recognition. And with that, I'll leave it to you.
Another big round for James.
Don't forget to look into the camera.
You need to turn it a little sideways so Rob looks down.
Did it crooked so that your head was closer to the top of the picture there, Rob.
Thank you.
Well, don't get so bossy there, Ron, because you're doing the next one.
Now I gotta take my glasses off. Or, do we have anybody here from Public Works by any chance?
Come on, Sam, Eric.
Just thinking.
Be proud of yourself here. You guys work hard.
Well, you trimmed down quite a bit there, Eric. I haven't noticed yet. Wow. Oh, goodness, don't do that. We're on our campfire.
Public Works, as you know, is really kind of part of the lifeline of our city. They get in here, and if it's a problem, they take care of it no matter what hour. And I can give the best example is just the other night we had a problem with a curb that was in really bad condition, and within, I'd say about 2 hours of us calling, they took care of it. And so it was a trip hazard, possible lawsuit, and they did a great job. So we want to give them credit tonight for focus on the infrastructure and services that are vital importance to sustain and communities and public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Santee. And whereas this year focuses on people, purpose, and presence, and whereas these employees may be the frontline workers, office workers, engineers, consultants, and employees of all levels of government at private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting nation's transportation, water treatment, and water systems. Whereas it is public interest for the employees, citizens, and children of Santee to gain knowledge of and maintain ongoing interest, respect, and understanding the importance of public works and public works programs in their representative communities, whereas all citizens are urged to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies and events and ceremonies to designate the public works professionals and substantial contributions to protecting our health, safety, and good life. And we really appreciate what they do in here in Santee. The year 2025 marks the 65th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Therefore, John Minto, Mayor of Santee, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim, May 19th through May 25th as Public Works Week. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Now back to Sam.
Thank you.
Oh, come on.
We couldn't do it without the support of our mayor, vice mayor, and council members, and the engineering staff and everyone we work with. It's a great community. We're honored to receive this. So thank you very much. Keep calling in requests, and we'll keep fixing things. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right, JJ, come down here. Captain, you come down too if you can. I'll walk slow so that you have an extra minute. Oh, you just jump over. That's okay.
Whatever. I know we weren't fun enough. With no soul.
Nice haircut, by the way. All right, I'm going to turn this over to you in just a minute because I want you to say a few words. But I'm going to start out saying that, I like doing this not to say goodbye to people, but because of my background in law enforcement. I know what it's like to work in a community and, give a lot of input and have a lot of good times there, get to know people, and the next thing you know, you get reassigned, and then now you go on to another community. But see, that's the good part is that you go on to another community so you make more friends and learn about more communities and the way people are. So giving you this certificate is nice. We're going to miss you, but I know you're going to go on to good things. So here you go, Captain.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that, JJ, we're going to miss you. You did a great job in your year here. We have a great replacement in Tom Fletcher. And one thing that I'm fortunate about, and I think the city is very fortunate, is that we are getting just the best lieutenants in our department assigned here. Better than the captains, for sure. So you guys keep us out of trouble. So, so JJ, thanks for everything you did. You did an amazing job, and I'm going to miss you.
And so this certificate is another thing you can hang on your wall in your new office. And, just as you're leaning back, getting ready to fall asleep, you can be the last thing you see for that few minutes. It says City of Santee Certificate of Commendation. The certificate is proudly presented to JJ, San Diego County Sheriff's Department Lieutenant. The City of Santee recognizes Lieutenant JJ on his dedication to protecting and serving Santee residents and visitors, providing quality law enforcement services during his Santee assignment, as well as assisting with the daily operations of Santee Sheriff Station. The time he spent in our community made an impact, and we commend him for a job very well done. You will be greatly missed. You want to say anything?
Real quick. Yeah, I figured. Normally I wouldn't, but I just want to say it's definitely not necessary, but very much appreciated. Thank you all. And I truly enjoyed working with the council, but also the staff here in Santee. The citizens were great, but to meet the staff and work with the staff and everything was the highlight for me for this year. And maybe one day I can convince them to send me back. So we'll see.
Captain, like
Well, that would be nice.
You would not be the first.
Where are you going?
I'm a Division of Inspectional Services. Bridge agent. That's why I gave you the name.
It's okay, Tom, you're allowed up here. All right, thank you.
Take care, Dennis.
All right, how about we get down to business? Let's go to the consent calendar or the calendar, and are there any items to be added, deleted, or reordered? Vice Mayor?
None for me, sir.
Ron?
No.
None for me.
And Dustin's not here. Nothing for me. Are there any speaker slips?
Yes, sir. We have a speaker on item 6 and item 11.
Thank you. Do I have a?
Motion to approve all items without
Except for 6 and 11.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll
Is there-
second it.
There's a second? Okay, let's vote on those.
Motion carries with 4 council members saying yes. Councilmember Trotter absent.
Thank you. That takes us to item number 6, which is adoption of a resolution approving the engineer's report and declaring city council's intention to levy assessments and setting a public hearing for fiscal year 2025-26. Santee Roadway Lighting District, annual levy of assessments. And who do we have on that, Heather?
Carl Constantino.
Oh, do we have any staff that's going to be able to respond, or? Okay, thank you. Come on up.
Quick question. The word levy kind of caught my attention when I was looking at this. As I understand this thing, it's to install 20 streetlights for $500,000 and assess per year $16 property taxes through property taxes for everything within Zone B, which is 80% of the city. Nowhere in the 22 pages of the resolution or the engineering report does it tell me where the lights are going. Is there something that's going to show that? Because I'm now paying for lights. I don't have any idea where they're at.
Good question.
So there are already lights throughout the city. We have 2 different zones. We have a zone for general benefit, which that comes from property tax revenue. And then we have the levy amount, which is for directed benefit. So what you see here as far as capital costs, those are to replace what's already existing. The budget includes, so the $16 a year for this levy includes all the costs that are needed to run the program, which includes electricity, maintenance, and things like that. And then over time, we build up a balance, and then we use that to improve the existing lights.
Okay, but it specifically says 20 new lights will be added within the district within fiscal year 2025 and 26.
So, yeah, so that'll be an expansion of what we already have. And I'm not exactly sure which lights those are. That would be the engineer, unfortunately, who runs the program is not here. Is that something we can get back to you on?
Can we get those?
I can jump in. You know, we just do the assessment, and like Heather had mentioned, we collect the levy of assessment. The vast majority of it goes to the electricity bills to pay it yearly. And then the new lights, we do evaluations where existing lights don't currently exist. And then we do an award of a contract, and usually those things either come back to you or they're done with our lighting contractor. I don't know what the list is right now because we wait until we have the full amount from the assessment, and then we look at the needs and where they need to go.
Mayor, if I may also, and for the speaker, this is just the first step in the process. So there will be a public hearing that comes later, and staff can provide additional information as this continues to move forward. So the levy isn't actually happening today. There's going to be a public hearing. There'll be more information. So I would suggest that we provide more information in the staff report for the next item. I think we can answer the speaker's question at that time.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was going to be my second question, so.
Yeah, Carl, just go ahead and make sure you send me an email on that like you've done in the past, because that helps keep me reminded that we need to get some certain information for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Was that it?
No further speakers.
Motion to
Okay.
approve item number 4.
Second.
6.
Item number 6.
6-2.
That too.
Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously with council members present.
All right, that takes us to item number 11, which is a report regarding the decision by the San Diego County Sheriff's Department to record footage from cameras at city intersections.
Speaker is Carl Constantino.
Come on down, Carl.
First, let me say I'm all in favor of that. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of it from me, about, the terrible traffic signal management in the city. When this thing came out, a lot of people, it was all over Facebook, but there was a lot of people that came out thinking we're talking about red light ticket cameras. And I mean, I know it's not what it is. But the traffic signal situation still hasn't gotten any better. And I don't know if this is going to help it or not. I don't know that there's an answer for that. Real quick, so anyway, I guess where I was going with that is it might be beneficial to throw out some kind of a information stating that it's not a red light camera ticket system, because out of 58 comments, probably well over 2/3 of them were that kind of discussion. The rest of them were all complaints about the traffic signals in the town, and again, I challenged everybody to join me here to voice their complaints, and I don't see anybody here. So, the one other thing I would say is, in that resolution, there was a real nice little thing about a website, www.safesantee.com. I think it would be beneficial if that was added to the city website, since it has to do with the city of Santee.
Yeah, just to let you know, we actually can't, I don't think, add those because those are privately owned. Isn't that pretty much the way that
You
works?
got Pulse Point, you got all kinds of different websites out there.
Yeah, no, it's a
linked
little
to.
different, though.
Yeah, this is something that when we set up the Safe Santee program, we wanted to make a distinction because this is really a sheriff's program. And so that's the issue, but we can work and get information out, that to clarify that this is not a red light camera program, and respond to the speaker's comments. We can
Yeah, I mean, having a Safe Santee website that nobody knows about, it really isn't much benefit.
Okay, great.
That was it.
Thanks, Carl.
No further speakers, Mayor.
Thank you.
Motion to approve item 11.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously with council members present.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on Carl, on you coming up and talking to us like this, is that a lot of people don't normally do that. They don't even see it happen very often in council meetings, especially other council meetings. But it's important for people to know that that's what this opportunity is for. And even some people who think it's not significant or important enough, it alerts us to things that we just maybe don't see. So we appreciate the comments that you bring to us.
Not that we don't see people running red lights as well.
We're
We also
usually
live here.
dodging them.
We all see it.
We're usually dodging them. Okay, let's go to public hearings.
Non-agenda public comments.
I'm
sir.
sorry, non-agenda public comment.
We
Speaker
do
slips?
have 2 speakers. The first, Gary Bloom.
Welcome back, Gary.
So about a year ago, I came to this council meeting to talk about the Total Altruism Project, which I met Eric at Big Rock Park. Just wanted to let you know, going through all the process, we did install it. We installed it on April 12th. We have 4 of these stations at Big Rock Park, and they have these litter grabbing tools on it. Mesa College is doing a study. I'll get the data results from them. At the end of this month, I think they're meeting, their final presentation is May 28th. But everything seems to be going really well. I'm seeing a lot of movement of the grabbers, that we call these grabbers. One day at noontime, there were 7 at station number 2, which is by the pickleball courts. And, oh no, there were 0 there, but there were 7 at the exit. The next morning, I was there early in the morning at 6 o'clock. There were 7 at station 2, but like 3 or 4 at the exit towards the back part of the park. So it's doing really well. Been talking to a lot of people. They all enjoy it. I don't know if the park is officially being cleaned up more with this project going in, but it kind of feels like it. So I just wanted to let you know that everything's going really well. And so I'll report later on the facts.
Thanks,
All right?
Gary.
The next speaker is Carl Constantino.
No way, not again.
I just got a quick question. I did receive a draft environmental impact report for the Palisade project, which is taking over the Santee Drive-In. It's I don't know whether anybody else has looked at it, but basically it's a building that is twice the footprint of Walmart and 5 times as tall, which I think is probably going to make it the tallest building in Santee. And public comments were asked for in the report, which I still intend to do. But I want to know, is there going to be a public hearing on this?
Yes.
Because this building, it just in my opinion at least, is totally out of scope with the area.
Yeah, there's any project that scope, there's a public hearing. So we have to do all the environmental and sequence, stuff like that.
But is it a done deal and you just get to listen to
No,
everybody
it's not.
complain?
Matter
Or
of fact,
can
we haven't even seen the project yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we tend not to go to those meetings because we have to try and have an objective opinion up here. And because we do what's called a quasi-judicial hearing, which means we have to render things based on evidence and testimony. And so we don't want to be pre-informed about those things.
Gotcha.
It's not that we can't form an opinion, but we try not to be too informed because that could be a conflict then.
Okay, well, that makes sense. I was, then a secondary to that is I would think that that would be an awesome topic for a District 2 Town Hall meeting. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Carl.
Carl, let's get together, like I said, and work on it.
No further speakers, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now it takes us to public hearing, which is number 12, a public hearing and resolution adopting General Plan Amendment GP A2019-4 to update the safety element of the Santee General Plan and negative declaration. California Environmental Quality Act is null and void. Or not null, but
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, we are continuing our discussion on the safety element update from the January 22nd council meeting. The update is required by state mandates. This is a list of all the state mandates. The state mandates include topics on flood hazards, very high fire severity zones, climate change, adaptation and resiliency, evacuation routes, and adding environmental justice to the general plan. The process of the safety element update began in 2020. Between 2021 and 2022, 2 stakeholder meetings were conducted and a city council workshop was held. In 2023, the Board of Forestry approved the element. In 2024, the Department of Conservation reviewed the element and the CEQA document was out for public review. A city council meeting was held in January, and tonight's hearing is a continuation of that meeting to address council comments and questions. So in the next couple of slides, I'll just provide an overview of the updates to the safety element. This slide summarizes the topics addressed in the safety element update as required by state mandates. The new hazard topic areas include light rail transit hazards and emergency evacuation. Based on council's feedback in January, several clarifications were made to the element. For example, the element clarifies that development is subject to the flood damage prevention ordinance and the city floodway maps, which will now be incorporated into the element. The policy on relocating Las Colinas has been removed. The disadvantaged community figure has been revised. Language was also added explaining that the updated fire hazard severity zone maps will be incorporated by reference. In addition, a strike-through version of the element was provided to show all recommended changes. So now I'll hand it over to our consultant, Harrison Associates, Sydney.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. As part of developing an environmental justice element, the state requires that we identify areas of the city that are considered disadvantaged communities as those areas to focus our environmental justice efforts. The state defines disadvantaged communities as low-income areas that are disproportionately affected by environmental pollution and other hazards that can lead to negative health effects, exposure, or environmental degradation. The disadvantaged communities in Santee, as identified by the criteria defined by the state, are in the southern portion of the city, outlined in black in the figure, and are shown west of State Route 67, south of Mission Gorge Road, and bounded by the city boundary to the west and south. An existing conditions assessment was prepared for Santee to identify environmental justice concerns in the city, particularly in disadvantaged communities. This existing conditions assessment informed the goals and policies in the environmental justice component of the element. As mentioned, Senate Bill 1000 requires cities to identify disadvantaged communities and incorporate environmental justice policies into general plans. Senate Bill 1000 has the following primary objectives, which are required to be evaluated in the element: reduce pollution exposure, improve access to public facilities, promote food access, promote physical activity, promote safe and sanitary housing, and address unique or compounded health risks, including climate change-related effects. In addition to the topics required above, Senate Bill 1000 requires policies intended to prioritize the needs of disadvantaged communities and promote civic engagement. The city conducted extensive community outreach as a part of the planning process for this element, including a community survey and several stakeholder meetings. A community survey was conducted to identify what environmental justice issues were of greatest concern to residents. It was available on the city's website and social media, and the city received 121 responses to the community survey. In addition, 2 environmental stakeholder meetings were held in June and December 2021, which were open to the public. The purpose of these were to present information and solicit feedback on issues to evaluate, as well as the goals, objectives, and policies. 2 Safety Advisory Committee meetings were held in November 2021 and April 2022 to confirm the existing safety conditions in the city and solicit feedback on the safety-related goals and policies in the element. This slide summarizes the main community concerns identified from the community survey and stakeholder meetings. These concerns informed the content evaluated in the existing conditions assessment and the goals and policies of the element. I will now turn the presentation back over to Christina.
The safety element update was subject to CEQA review. A negative declaration was circulated for public comment, and 1 comment letter was received that did not require revisions to the negative declaration. Staff recommends that council open and close the public hearing, adopt the negative declaration resolution, and adopt the safety element update as required by state law. And that concludes staff's presentation.
We don't have any speaker slips, council comments. Laura?
Sure, thank you. I did review this safety element with staff actually several times because I did have a lot of questions. So thank you for working with me on this. And you did answer all of my questions. So the only thing that I just want to say for the public is that referring to the map, and it's towards the end of the safety element, which is a huge document in errata policy 4.7, there is the map that was referenced earlier about disadvantaged communities, and the that is basically District 3. I mean, that's a little, but where the houses are in District 3, a little bit of Mission Gorge, and so what I suggested to staff is that we definitely need the community center, and we're putting our park and lieu fees towards the community center, and that's a priority. But then after that, Big Rock Park, which is the park in District 3, still needs some attention. We have done some small improvements, and actually the pickleball people have done improvements as well, raised funds there. But we do have a teen center there, and it's heavily used. It's walkable, so for the kids in the community to walk there, it's a great location. I would like to see some improvements in that teen center above and beyond what's allocated through the Spark process, which is maybe $5,000 a year, I think, at this point. And I'm not saying we need to do it right now because I know we have the priority of the community center, but just let's keep that on our radar. I don't think that location needs to go away. It actually could be expanded. We do need to do an overhaul of the restroom down there. We have done some fixes, but the restroom, that's, I think, a $700,000 bill, so to redo it totally. So I know that's in the future. I could see the teen center actually serving some more purposes, like perhaps a cool zone in the area. And as far as the safety element itself, I think the last version that we had was from, I think it was 2002, but maybe it was 2010. I don't know.
I think 2002?
2002, and then we saw it again in 2022, so obviously a big gap. If we could manage some more routine updates, and I know that's a funding element, but maybe there's even cleanup language that we could just look at every year where we don't need to hire a consultant to do it. We just internally at staff look at it and say, you know what, this doesn't make sense. Perhaps we could do that so it isn't such an overwhelming process for everybody, because really this is so different from what we had in 2002. You could probably redline the whole document and would have very few sentences left. But again, thank you for all your work on it.
Ron?
Can you go back to the slide that just shows where the disadvantage zone is? So when basically it looks like a little past Magnolia, now I think there's a pollution element that they're concerned about. Do we have any problems down there or not?
On Magnolia?
I'm sorry?
What was your question?
Is there any pollution problems down there in that area? It's a lot of business, that's why I was concerned. Did that pop up at all in the reports? Okay, all right, that's fine.
I think maybe the only thing we have is during rainy seasons when we have a bunch of stuff wash through Forster Creek and
I
the
agree with
river
that.
and stuff.
That's actually a little higher up normally, but there's parts of it that's covered. Okay, well, I just want to make sure that, again, that, as Laura was saying, it's basically our areas. I just want to make sure that we're going to do something, if necessary, do something to work with that, to try and get that better covered, for a better word. And if we need to do, I know like with MTS, they do air pollution monitors and things like that. I just didn't know. And then also it's just, the disadvantage to me is a kind of the wrong term, but I'll deal with whatever they want to deal with. But we want to make sure that we have the housing in there, the mobile home areas in there, and all those areas in there are protected. So that's kind of more where I'm leaning towards.
Oh.
Yeah, the only thing that I see that would classify that as disadvantage is the proximity to the 52 freeway. You're going to get some fumes off of that, and then also Gillespie Field, the touch and goes that happen on the 52, or I'm sorry, at Gillespie. So until they close down Gillespie, which I don't see ever happening, and or we close the 52, which I also don't see ever happening, it's just, that's the reality of life. So I don't know what you can do to mitigate the traffic on 52, other than widening it so that it gets through faster. But that's a little beyond the city of Santee's control, and Gillespie Field is not in the city of Santee. Therefore, once again, beyond our control. I think we've done a great job of meeting what the state's requirements were, and thank you, staff, for doing that. And I move staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
I have a motion second, but I have a quick question. Sorry I didn't think about this earlier. I could have called you ahead of time, but I didn't think of it till just now. And I can't find it. I'm actually looking at SB 1000. It's been a while since I've seen it. Do they actually have a definition for disadvantaged community? And
Yes.
when you talk to different people, they always seem to have a different outlook or idea or what that means. And if we get maybe what their definition is, help put it in perspective for us and maybe some of the other folks.
Let me find it. Do you have the definition of it? Oh, can you want?
Yeah, come on up, whoever has it.
All right. So, excuse me. Senate Bill 1000 defines disadvantaged communities as those disproportionately burdened by multiple sources of pollution and with population characteristics that make them more sensitive to pollution. So as a result, they are more likely to suffer from a lower quality of life and worsened health outcomes compared to areas that are more affluent. That's the definition.
That's kind of interesting because they throw in that last word, affluent. And so that is an automatic indicator that people that might live in a disadvantaged community or where there's a greater possibility of some type of pollution, although they didn't really identify it. I think they're talking more about air pollution, are people who are poor. And that's just not necessarily true because you mentioned Highway 52, probably the biggest offender because we have some of the slowest traffic that goes through there. And especially on hot summer days, whether it's actually in the morning or afternoon, we actually have a greater inversion layer that occurs throughout that valley, which actually permeates throughout the entire city of Santee. So it's almost easy to say that the whole city is a disadvantaged community, but it's certainly not a depressed economically throughout the entire city. As a matter of fact, I know I live down there south in that area, and we have some very nice homes. People take very good care of them. I think where we have more...
I think that's why they're disadvantaged.
Well, it could be because of the fact that I live there, you're right. I think where we're really looking the hardest is those folks in that area who have had their homes for more than 30 or 40 years, who moved in there before we had some of the air pollution control problems from the 52. We have our seniors. We have, 10 parks in that district, 9. And so they are, many of them are on a lower social economic scale. So we really have to identify the things that help those folks the greatest. Cool zones are probably some of the biggest things that we need to look at. So as we go forward, like when we talk about the community center, that's actually not, very close to a lot of those places. So maybe as we also go forward, we look at how we can do some other, things that in the community where people can go to. Maybe one day we'll get to have a bigger, better library someplace, and people will be able to go there also. So anyhow, just kind of want to put that in perspective for everybody. That's not always about dollars and cents, but it does have to do with a lot of environmental issues that can cause some issues and not just money. It's not about affluence or poverty.
Right after our new fire stations.
Disadvantage, I understand that that's not a controversial word, but it just, sounds a little, we all have our opinions about it. I wrote affordable, and as far as District 3 goes, most of the affordable places to live, comparatively in the city of Santee, are in my district. My home is, in the first tract home community in Santee, so it was built in the 50s. So older homes, like you mentioned, and a lot of the mobile home parks, which most of them are senior parks, so they are fixed incomes. Transportation is definitely an issue. That is why I mentioned activating Big Rock Park more as a way to address this, not necessarily have people go across town for. It's already working there. The teen center is doing very well there, so perhaps just focusing in the future some dollars on that as a community benefit for this particular area.
I think one of the things I wanted to point out is we've been working on this quite a long time. It's just not, there's been a lot of staff overtime because some have come and gone. And every year, it seems like there's some kind of new bill that comes out, because in the state legislature, each house has nearly 3,000 bills that are introduced, and some like to introduce them over and over again. So it slows things down and makes more difficulty. It also adds prices to homes and to businesses, and things that over time cause some of these issues. So I just kind of, for the folks that are watching in or folks that are here, these things are not taken lightly. Yeah, we have a good time up here, but you know what? This is all very serious and needs to be looked at, and we appreciate all the work you're doing. So I do have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously with council members present.
Thank you very much. That takes us to item number 13, which is a public hearing for a conditional use permit to construct an 87,000 square foot self-surge building located at 10835 Woodside Avenue in the general commercial GC zone, and finding the project categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15332. The applicant is Extra Space Storage. And Sandy, you're going to give us or
Me.
You're back at it. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I have to recuse myself on this item, so
Okay.
I will have to step out.
Just for those of you who are wondering what that's about, anytime any council member at any point has any kind of interest in a property, excuse me, just because they did business there one time, can keep them out, excuse me, keep them from hearing the item.
Right?
No. Pardon me.
The item before you is a proposed self-storage building located at 10835 Woodside Avenue. Land uses immediately adjacent to the site and within the vicinity include residential and commercial uses. A feed and supply store is located to the north of the site. State Route 67 is located to the east. Mission-Dale Magnolia Mobile Home Park is located to the west. And Riderwood Terrace multifamily development is located to the south. The project site is zoned general commercial, which requires a CUP for storage facilities. The site to the north is also zoned general commercial. The mobile home park is zoned low-medium density residential, and Riderwood Terrace is zoned medium-high density residential. The site is currently developed with 4 self-storage buildings and RV storage parking area. The new building would replace the RV storage area. The existing storage facility consists of 4 one-story buildings with a combined square footage of approximately 30,000 square feet. The storage facility was constructed in the mid-70s prior to the city's incorporation and will remain. A portion of each building, approximately 3,400 square feet, will be demolished from the west side to accommodate site improvements such as landscaping and parking. The proposed building will consist of 3 floors and a basement for a total of 87,090 square feet. The project also includes a caretaker's residence. There is currently 1 access driveway along Woodside Avenue, which will be reconstructed. A second driveway will be constructed at the southwest corner of the project site. A total of approximately 13,000 square feet of landscaping would be provided. 17 parking spaces are required and 18 are provided. The ornamental fencing along Woodside Avenue will remain, and 4 ornamental gates are proposed for vehicle and pedestrian access. A retaining wall is proposed at the south of the property, and the existing perimeter chain link fence to the northwest and south will remain. The proposed building consists of corrugated metal panel siding, tempered glass, CMU, and plastered walls. The proposed building height is 39 feet, which is below the maximum height of 40 feet. Within 50 feet of a residential district, the maximum building height is 25 feet, which I will show you in the next couple of slides. This is a proposed south building elevation. And this section shows the portion of the building within 50 feet of the residential district that will not exceed 25 feet in height. The proposed building height is 24 feet 10 inches. The applicant held 2 community meetings in February and July of 2024. The public attended the meeting in July, and the main concerns were views, building height, traffic, property values, and construction noise. The project includes features such as enhanced cool roofs, an electrical vehicle charging station, photovoltaic system, and surveillance cameras with recording capabilities. Staff recommends that City Council conduct and close a public hearing, find the CUP exempt from CEQA, and authorize the filing of the notice of exemption and approve the CUP. That concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is also here to answer any questions.
Thank you. I do have 7 speaker slips.
Yes, also 4 from the applicant, just so you know.
Okay, the applicant, we're going to hear from our speakers first, public speakers. So, and the clerk will call each person. And you know what, James, since we have 7, why don't you call first like 3, and then that way we can always have them queued up and not be waiting for everybody to figure out how to get up here.
Yes, sir. The
Thanks.
first will be Robin Harrison, followed by Sam Cohen, and then Ken Toomer.
Yeah, come on up.
So the first speaker is Robin Harrison.
So good evening, Mayor and member of the council. I do want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Robin Harrison, and I am a homeowner of the Riderwood Terrace condominium complex, which consists of 123 residential units. And I'm here to express my strong opposition to the proposed expansion of the storage facility near our community, and to respectfully urge the council to deny this permit. I purchased my property in this area as a long-term investment because of the peaceful environment the small community feel and the stunning unobstructed view of the hillside. I was aware of the existing storage unit that was nearby, and it was acceptable because of the small and quiet, unobtrusive building. At no time was I or any of our neighbors informed of plans to dramatically expand this facility. So the proposed expansion would create a almost 40-foot high industrial structure. I think it was less from what she was talking. But it would almost tower over some of our homes, completely blocking the natural hillside view. One of the very features that we all drew us to the community and the neighborhood. This is a residential area for us in our community, and the structure would be completely out of character for our area. This isn't just an aesthetic issue, it's a financial one for all of us. We have made significant financial investments in our homes and are already paying substantial property taxes to live in this area. And to have an oversized commercial facility forced into our neighborhood is a disgrace to us. It will almost certainly lead to a decrease in our property values, and that is simply not fair to those of us who have purchased here with no warning or expectation that this kind of a development would occur. Additionally, the expansion includes 18 more parking spaces, signaling an increase in activity and traffic, and possibly 24 hours a day. Woodside Avenue, which borders our complex, is already a very high traffic area. It's a very dangerous road. Our complex has only 1 entrance and 1 exit, and it's already a challenge to enter and leave there safely. We've already seen multiple car accidents in that area. This project only will make that area worse. Even more concerning is that children wait for school buses alongside Woodside. Increasing traffic in an area where children gather is incredibly risky. This is a matter of public safety.
The next speaker is Sam Cohen, who will be followed by Ken Toomer.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Sam Cohen. I'm an owner. I rise in loyal opposition to these wonderful people sitting in the bleachers to my left. And I would argue from this point of view, what does this addition to this storage unit bring to the city of Santee besides permits and taxes? How does it contribute to the betterment and well-being of our citizens? And I would argue that it adds nothing. Additionally, as the previous buyer said, I am a retired real estate broker and somewhat expert witness in this thing. The values will decline. There's no two ways about it. Put yourself in the shoes of a buyer. You're driving up the driveway to Riderwood Terrace. You see this big white monstrosity. Would you consider that a plus or a minus? It would be a minus. I would argue that probably on an average, the homeowners would probably lose about 10% of value because values are predicated on view and you're taking away the views of a lot of these people. That's a $4,500 hit per unit, which about 6.5 if you multiply it out, so that these people can make more money, and I consider that very morally wrong. And before you take your vote, I would request that each of you consider yourself a homeowner in this project, and how would you feel when you look out of your window and you see this monstrosity sitting in front of your house? How would you vote? Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Ken Toomer, who will be followed by Jamie Toomer.
Good evening. I've lived here 24 years in Santee, and the biggest thing that strikes me about this city is its commitment and dedication to the residents and the homeowners in the community. And this company, in my opinion, does not represent those values, because if they did, they would not have changed their opening hours to 10 p.m., which means there are people using that facility after 6 o'clock in the evening, making noise right next to their community. If they did, when they were re-roofing their community, their storage facility a few weeks ago, they were making so much noise at 5 o'clock in the morning that many of us had to call the sheriff that came out to that property and told them that they were not allowed to be on there outside of working hours. They knew about this. They did nothing about it. The previous owner, and I love that you guys are celebrating small businesses, because the previous owner worked in conjunction with our community. Whenever we had an issue, we could call them. They would sort it out immediately. One of those issues being they have lights on the top of their storage units. Sometimes they get turned when they're cleaning those lights and they flash right into our homes. And we have to call and say, hey, you guys go and take care of that. Oh, sorry about that. And the very next day, there's someone on the roof dealing with that light. She mentioned the last time we had a meeting, we met with them and we told them that they had put up big fluorescent lights on the buildings that exist there. The reason they did that was so that people can use their facility after hours. Those lights are like shining a big flashlight into all of our homes. We told them about that. I called them 3 times. My wife's called them. I'm sure other people have called them. We talked to them in their face directly to them about this at the last meeting. Oh, we're really sorry. We'll take care of it. Nothing's been done. Every night, I got to make sure I'm not walking around in my underwear because there's a light flashing in my house all the time. This is a sort of issue that we're talking about as residents, as community, as people, as the residents of Santee, homeowners. If any of you, as Sam has said, can put yourself in our shoes, think about what that means as a city resident of Santee. And if you believe, as we do, in community first, in home ownership, and family-oriented values. My son's been born and raised here 24 years, spent time in all the stuff, 7 parks of Santee. We love it here. If that's what we're really about, if that's what this council is really about, then you cannot accept that proposal. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jamie Toomer, who will be followed by Marlene Curtin.
Hello. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. I really appreciate it. So the main problem I have is that they don't really seem to care about us that much. And the overall vibe of the company is that they don't care at all. In 2017, they were filed in New Jersey for a class action lawsuit by about 150,000 plaintiffs. 2019, there was another class action lawsuit against them for a bait and switch. And if you look that up on the internet, that does come up a lot. They've done that quite a few times. And so there's really this vibe that this company does not care about us at all. And if you look at the planning maps for the road that's being built, there is a company that's nearby building I think it's a car dealership. They had to do some stuff. I looked through that. You see that during peak hours, there's around 1,000 cars going through each way. And when I asked them about how this building is going to affect the traffic, they didn't have an answer. Also, when I asked them during the meeting how the building's going to affect the value of the houses. They didn't have an answer. Again and again, they didn't have an answer. And as you've heard, there's so many stories that we ask them to do, hey, can you change this? Can you change that? They don't change anything at all. They keep doing things the same. I imagine that maybe at some point they've come to you guys and said, hey, we're going to have some economic benefits. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to promote more job growth. We're going to stimulate the economy. But is it really worth doing that when you're going to be hurting other people that live right next door? Is it? I don't think it is. And that's all I really want to say. Thank you.
The next speaker is Marlene Curtin, who will be followed by Will Nava.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. Many of the homeowners, I'm also a homeowner at Riderwood Terrace, have spoken on many of the issues that we have with this development. However, I wanted to drive down into one specific issue. I am both a pedestrian in the area and a driver, and this area is really hostile to pedestrians, but it is already at this moment hostile to drivers, as it is right now. I have near misses multiple times a week with we take a left turn from the highway to get into our unit, and only 3 to 4 car lengths between our entrance and Mission Del Magnolia, which is the mobile home park on the other side. We're oftentimes coming down that middle lane, which would be going past one of the entrances to this particular development. As it is, we have very little time to react and get into our entrances and exits. And this is going to add to that. This is going to be incredibly hostile to drivers and pedestrians at this moment. So, my concern is that their expectation is that there's going to be a lot more traffic coming through there. And we have accidents often. We have moments wherein if you're walking down the sidewalk, cars don't see the pedestrians. And I have almost been hit at least once in just that sort of area near Riderwood Terrace and the businesses there. And you see people crossing because there's not a good crosswalk there as well. I am just very concerned that someone's going to get hurt if we have this go in the way that it is set up. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. I'm not crying. I'm just very nervous. So thank you so much for your time. That's the very specific issue, that looking at the roads and looking at how I interact with the area and looking at how we as drivers interact with the area, it's at this moment that doesn't seem to be addressed in the plan. If you take a look at the Google Maps, is how that would intersect. Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Will Nava, who will be followed by Eric Farwell.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. We would like you to consider voting no on the proposal to allow extra space storage at the 10835 Woodside Avenue. We recently purchased our very first home in the Riderwood Terrace community in November of 2024 and are finally settled in. Some things that drew us to the community was the level of safety and the beautiful views of the palm trees, mountains, and open skies. One concern is that 24/7 light pollution from extra storage. We moved away from the city lights to be in an area with less light pollution. However, extra space storage already has extremely bright lights shining on our community. Adding more units will only make this worse, further reducing our quality of life. Another concern is trying to exit our complex. It's already not easy. It's already not an easy thing to do because of the traffic on Woodside Avenue, and adding more storage units will only increase traffic, making the area higher risk for accidents as people are speeding down Woodside Avenue. I've noticed that we have a lot of teenagers in our community who are beginning to learn how to drive, and adding that more storage units will add more risk for the teenagers that are learning how to drive in our community. Regarding the construction aspect of this proposal, we both work from home, as do others in our community, and the construction will be very loud for us for an extended period as we are right next to the facility on Riderwood Terrace. This will also bring increased traffic and debris on the road. Extra Space Storage has several other facilities all over San Diego which they can expand, which are in commercial and other non-residential areas instead of encroaching on our quality of life. I'm a real estate agent too, so I did my research on the buildings, and I noticed that there are a lot of buildings that are zoned commercially, and they could go up, but instead they're choosing to ruin our view. Please consider voting no on this proposal and allow the Riderwood Terrace community to continue experiencing safety and enjoyable quality of life. Thank you for your time and consideration.
The next speaker is Eric Farwell, who will be followed by speakers on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Eric Farwell. I'm a retired first responder, a resident of Santee for the last 4 years, and currently serve as the president of the Riderwood Terrace Homeowners Association, which is located south of the proposed expansion project. I'm just going to recap some of the concerns that have been shared earlier this evening because they're very, very important to us. We're a community of 123 condominiums built upon a terraced hillside in the mid-'80s. Our property values are over $60 million in value. We have 2 amenities within our community, a community pool and a panoramic view. Our residents vary from a year of ownership to over 30 years of ownership in this community and comprise over 400 registered voters. The proposal classifies our community as a medium-high density with one main entrance and exit in and out of the community off of Woodside Avenue. I appreciate the opportunity to express my strong opposition to this proposed development for several reasons. First, there will be an increase in traffic and safety risks. We are concerned about the proposed expansion will significantly increase traffic flow in our region, leading to congestion on Woodside Avenue. We have a single driveway of ingress and egress. Immediately across the street is an enormous mobile home park community with the same single entrance and exit. Our residents will confirm that we've taken great care and caution arriving home from work and leaving for work each day for fear of getting broadsided or rear-ended. We understand the proposal includes adding an additional driveway to the west side of our property controlled by a metal lift gate. Although the gate may remain open during business hours, there will be increased hazards if vehicles have to wait alongside Woodside Avenue for the gate to open when it's closed or if it's malfunctioning. We understand the traffic study was done in August of 2024, but it does not accurately reflect the day-to-day traffic volume during peak and non-peak hours, as our residents have attested. Second, we have a concern about potential decrease in property values due to the presence of a 3-story development immediately north of our property. Our community is constructed in the 80s with views as one of our features that made our community desirable for investment. Has there been consideration to limit the proposed project to 2 stories instead of 3? We would consider that and think that would be an acceptable compromise. None of the existing locations throughout the county share a border with the residential community. They have other properties in the county and they don't share a residential community. I'm running out of time, so I'll just say that we have issues with noise and lighting, but we do appreciate your time and consideration if you'll just take these concerns when you evaluate your vote. Thank you.
The remaining speakers are on behalf of the applicant, and as a public hearing applicant, they are limited to 15 minutes. The speakers are Clint Klepp, David Mann, Brooke Miller, and Kyle Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to introduce this project to you guys. It's been a pleasure working with staff and the community to try and understand this project and how it can best fit into the community. We worked really hard to adapt the project to make sure that it fit in the best it could in the existing space that we're working with. With that, I'm going to turn it over to David Mann and some folks with our project team to better explain this project.
Hello, David Mann. We are the architects hired by Extra Space to do the project. Our other two speakers are here in case questions are needed. I'm going to give a quick overview on this. So we are adding the one new building along Woodside. We are keeping the 4 existing with some demolition portions. I'll show you a plan on that. We are improving the vehicle access and driveways, fire access and security features. We are actually adding parking to the site. The only parking now is either adjacent to the drive-up storage units or in that dirt RV lot. Excuse me. And they are capturing and treating stormwater runoff as required, which currently does not happen on that existing site, which was done in the 70s. If I get my bearings here. Okay, so the top is the existing site. The yellow line, I'm trying to zoom in on this. Can you show me here? Thank you. The dotted yellow line, which I see is hard to see, that existing RV parking is where the building will be, and then the yellow line that runs down through here, that's the demo portion. That will be removed so that we can add parking and landscaping along that. And then the bottom portion here does show existing view along Woodside with that. The next page is showing so on the left side, you see the new drive. There is parking available. The gate that was mentioned earlier is actually up in here. There will be no queuing or waiting on Woodside Drive for that gate. They will pull into the lot and either park or wait in this area here. There's queuing for probably 3 or 4 cars plus parking in this area. We are developing landscaping all along Woodside with the addition of street trees, which don't currently exist. Addition of landscape actually inside the site, and adding screening shrubs and bushes all along this edge that does border the residential site. And there's examples. Here are renderings of the street views along Woodside. You see the street trees and the landscaping that is added that currently does not exist. This is the 3-story storage building along here. And that's just a brief overview of it right now. What I will say is we did do mailers in January and had a meeting early February. No one attended, and we learned after city staff sent out their notice that the residents said they did not get a notice. We didn't understand. We used the same mailing list. So we did a second notice and sent that out. That second notice went out early July. We did have a second meeting. We did listen. There were about 22 people, give or take, who came to that staff meeting and expressed the very concerns that you've heard tonight. Traffic, height, light, and that from that. So we do know the street is busy. With that, early on, there was a concern about this drive, which now is aligned with the driveway across the street that goes to the mobile home park, because there was concern about the offset and traffic turning in and out from both of those in opposition. So that drive is aligned. We are improving the exit also as required for fire access, so it actually gets wider. That is existing. The entire site is not being developed, so all of these back here are there. It's these gray areas at the bottom along here are the condos where these residents live. There are 3 that are in directly across from the new building. And then the others travel down here, and then as they step up the hill, there are then some others on that. You can see them here. Again, these units that border right against the new building, and then the new ones, these units do not. With that, I will say the new building is, let's see if, so this is a section view to show the condominiums next door and those units. This is the building. They are up, so that actually the top of the building is actually below the top floor of the units adjacent. There is, as required, a screening hedge along there. We did hear their concerns about the building and added articulation along that wall. So we added green wall up at the top. We broke up the mass with screening elements and a variation along here, so it was not just a big blank white building. So that is the south side that faces those units. Extra Space is the current owner and operator. They feel they are improving the property. We feel it's an improvement along Woodside for the street frontage from what it currently has with no landscaping and the RV parking lot. We do meet all the requirements. This step right here is required. We step back 50 feet from the property line at that height as required next to when we are adjacent to a residential property. And we feel it does meet all city standards and requirements for a building on this site. We are not asking for any variations, exceptions, or anything that is not currently permitted by the zoning, by the general commercial zoning on that site. That's what I have right there.
Questions? Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. You could take first.
All right. So a question was raised as to what is the need to, or what is the benefit to the community of Santee if we were to do something of this nature? And I can tell you that there's a tremendous need for storage in Santee because of the high density housing that's been added to the city of Santee. We no longer allow people to store stuff in their garages. They have to park in their garages as a part of the HOAs and the CCNRs. So we get complaints that there's not enough storage, and that's a reason that you've seen a number of storage facilities pop up around the community. The one thing that I don't like is that we're losing RV storage because that's another major need. But the reality is it didn't have that many RVs. I did actually visit this particular site beforehand to check it out, and it looked more like it was more abandoned. Not abandoned, I guess people are paying for it, so not abandoned, but it looked more like abandoned boats and trailers there than RVs and covered parking and that type of stuff. So the view that was available was not exactly the nicest view looking down. I understand it's maybe better than a wall, though thank you for doing something to make it look as pleasing as possible, but yes, it is still a wall. I like this elevation look better because the staff report didn't show the height differential. There's another one here. I think there was another picture here that you guys had that gave that elevation a little bit better as well. That's okay. There's the building right there. So yeah, I get that a number of the condos that are in the front there, or that are right up against this, will definitely lose some of that a good portion of that view to the was that west direction? Let's see. North. North, thank you. Where is the ingress and egress for this as opposed to the Riderwood facility, the Riderwood Village? Terrace, sorry.
The new drive, I'll come to this plan. So the Riderwood is right down here in this very corner.
Okay.
That is their, the single entrance that goes to their property. And then here is the new entrance to this property.
And slide down on that. There you go. And that other entrance?
And that is
both
the
entrance and-
existing entrance that's being improved so that we get fire circulation around the entire building.
And so that is entrance and exit?
It currently is. It is changed now to exit only.
Exit only, okay.
Can't, to access control for the site, this way they'll need to drive by this front portion, and this will be the only ingress into the site.
Okay. And what's your time frame for construction? How long do you anticipate it taking?
Yeah, so we still have to go through the engineering and building department review process. So I would anticipate, and I'm turning to the owner.
From the time you break ground? From the time you're going to have boots on the ground making
14
noise?
months, about 14 months.
14 months? Okay. And I see, that all right, so you're getting rid of, I just look at the square footage and I can see that you're getting rid of a number of the storage units that are there in order to make room for.
This is correct.
Yeah, so how many units are disappearing?
2, 4, 6, 8, and then maybe another 6, 14, and 20 or less.
20 or less? And then how many storage units will the new building facilitate?
Oh, gosh.
450. 450? Okay.
It's a number I didn't remember.
Oh, light shed. We just had another issue with light shed in another part of town with a new building as well, so we're very familiar with that. I want to make sure that we're doing everything to mitigate that. So the reality is that have you looked at, as I see on the back wall where it's going to be most affecting any residential buildings, have you looked at putting, instead of lights from the building down, looking at lights on the wall down? Going directly into the parking lot rather than going into the residential development.
Yeah, this building is tall enough that we would not be putting lights up on the parapet. That wouldn't be effective. It would be too much and would exceed the illumination levels permitted when it comes to sight bleed and everything else. This building will have lighting actually along the wall to light.
So it will be along the wall. It won't be facing the residential.
No, well, this side has lighting on that wall to illuminate the driveway. It will be facing down and shielded.
Is there any way to move that to the retaining wall?
We have, we're tight against the property line on that. The retaining wall is not tall enough to actually, so in this section view, this is the driveway coming in. The retaining wall is actually not tall enough to do that. I mean, we could investigate something like that with pole-mounted fixtures over there to aim it towards that instead of aiming it at the building. That would be something we certainly could.
The premise of it is to light the road, not the building.
Correct.
Right?
That's
So
correct.
It doesn't have to be that high to.
No.
There's no parking along that wall, correct?
No, it is not.
So
That's
it'd be
fire
unobstructed.
access only.
I don't understand why you would need something high. It's lighting up the floor.
You don't. That's what I'm saying. That's why when I say on the wall, what I'm saying is not. It would be down lower to address the road, not.
And that's the premise of having lighting on the backside of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would appreciate if you'd look at that if it moves forward at all. I'd appreciate if you'd look at that so that you don't have any lighting going into the residential development behind it. I can imagine that being very frustrating situation that would already be a frustrating situation. All right, I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Perhaps the owner could answer some questions that came out tonight from the public. One was not addressing the lights from the existing storage facility that are bothering the neighbors. Have you received phone calls? I'm hearing they used to have a relationship with the property owner and that's not existing now, or what is the situation?
So, yeah, that was a surprise. Actually, I've been in contact with Zach. He's a store manager, and I've visited out to the site several times over the course of the last probably year and a half, and just asked him, how things are going, if he's gotten any complaints, what's going on, and he hasn't relayed to me that there's been much of an issue with regard to that. But I will tell you, though, that if there is an issue and if it is ongoing, and if it is something that is, we've got some lighting that is shining directly on our residential neighbors, that's definitely something that we do not want. We are in a lot of communities across the nation, and we try very hard to make sure that we're shielding the lighting. We've got special lighting that only goes down and doesn't protrude past our property, and we'll make sure that.
So, and I'm sorry, it's not a Q&A, so we can't do that part.
I directly told the gentleman there in the glasses.
You know what? Hold on, sir. We can't allow back and forth testimony. That's all right. We'll get to that.
Okay, so it does sound like there's, a disconnect with communication. Sure. And if there's one person, I don't know if Zach worked for the prior company. I don't know when this was sold and when you bought or any of that information. Probably there needs to be more than one source.
Correct.
To make sure that,
Absolutely.
And do you want to address the accusations made through a Google search about the company in general?
Oh, about those lawsuits that were mentioned. I wasn't involved with that. I don't know much about that. All I do know, what I can say is I believe they were all resolved. Extra Space is a large company. They're in a large number of communities across the U.S. and service a lot of customers.
Is it a franchisee kind of situation, or how does it work?
No. So Extra Space owns approximately half of the stores that they have, and the remainder of the stores are either joint venture properties where Extra Space owns a portion of them and somebody else owns the remainder, or a third-party owner that actually owns the storage facility will reach out to Extra Space and they'll pay Extra Space a management fee to manage the facility for them.
Okay.
And so we'll staff them, we'll brand them, and we'll run them like our own, but in essence, they're owned by a third party.
Not like hotels.
So I didn't get a good sense, and I'm sorry if it was in the staff report. I, missed it. What's the net gain of storage units?
The net gain of storage
If
units?
this project were to go forward, what's the net gain?
I believe we're adding somewhere in the order of about 450 units to this property.
And I am sure that a traffic study happened.
Absolutely.
And, what I was hearing from people in the community is that regardless, if this, a commercial building can go on this property. So that's not the issue. And it, like you said, it follows all the city's, regulations, and, you're not asking for anything special to put this here. And so that always could have been developed, and it could be developed by any commercial building that, follows our development rules. So that's not the issue. But it does sound like there's pre-existing traffic issues that precede you, so I'm not saying anything to you, but I am concerned. I am familiar with Riderwood. My younger sister's boyfriend had a condo there in the late 80s, so I went over there. And I think it's unfortunate that it's only one way in and one way out for all those condos there. But perhaps just as a city in general, regardless of your property, that we need to do something to look at that area and address the issues that the citizens were talking about, pedestrian safety and traffic safety as the conditions exist today. Because honestly, something can go there, and it's zoned for commercial, so a commercial building can go there. But we also want to make sure that the people that live around there are safe, and it sounds like people don't feel safe right now with traffic and, walking around the neighborhoods. I'm curious, what were the hours before for the prior owner for this facility, and it flashed kind of quickly about what the new proposed hours would be? Or what are hours now? Did they change?
So the hours we're maintaining the same hours that we've had for the last
and the
several
prior
years.
owner had same hours, or were they
The
different?
prior owner, I am not exactly certain of the hours that the prior owner was maintaining for their facility.
It sounds like this is, then the hours now are later than what they used to be. That's what it sounds like, based on community feedback. And I would really like to understand why the hours were changed, even now without the facility being built. I did, to Vice Mayor McNellis's point, I have an old home, and it was built for a single car. And even with that, if it weren't for my husband, a car wouldn't fit in there because he's very organized. So I had a storage unit, and I don't have it now, but I needed to have a storage unit. But the hours weren't at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, what's the necessity?
That's the latest we're open.
Yeah, that's late that sounds late to me.
Okay.
Where I had my storage unit in Santee before, it wasn't open that late, and I am concerned because this is going next to community members. The other one where I had my stuff was next to an apartment building, so I understand, but the hours I think they probably accommodated the residents who lived around it, so. I think those are my questions for now. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I've got some, might as well stay up there, because I think I'm going to ask some questions too. Actually, first from staff, either Carl or Sandy, are you familiar with the traffic study that was done over there?
Yeah, the traffic study was conducted, and I believe it was only estimated to be 121 new trips a day. It's considered less than significance in a CEQA analysis, and so no additional remediation or mitigation was required.
Okay. Do we have any idea the last time we've done any kind of traffic survey out there? I know Minji's not here. He probably would.
We do periodic traffic surveys, and as part of some of the adjacent developments, they've been done in the last 2 years. We did an extensive analysis when we were looking at the intersection at the freeway at that time as well. Mm-hmm. Traffic volumes are high, but not as high as other sections of Mission Gorge Road, but the level of service is still acceptable.
Okay. And do we have any, maybe even Aldo, you might know about this or be able to find this out, do we have an idea of number of traffic collisions that may have occurred between Magnolia and Woodside along that Woodside North, I think it is, in that area? Do we have any information about that at all?
I'm sure we can pull the data. I don't have it available with me at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't think so. And also, do we know, somebody, I'm just going to ask somebody to yell this out because I don't want anybody else to have to come up, but what kind of buses are picking up children there? Are they the yellow school buses? Just a yes or no? Yes. Okay, it's a yes. And So have we identified exactly where those buses stop? And because there's no bus stops, no public bus stops along that entire. Hold on a second. I'm going to see if staff can answer that first. And because there's no public bus stops there. No, there's none. I was there. I actually went down there today because I wanted to have it fresh in my mind what was along there, because we did get a letter that talked about buses there, and didn't know if it was public buses that were stopping for the kids to go to school, and so we might have to contact the schools and find out where they're picking kids up, because you know what? I'm going to have to call somebody up from Riderwood. Yeah, the president of the association, can you come up for a minute, please? Because I'm going to have some questions answered. You may or may not know this, but you kind of represent. So, do you have any idea how many school children live in the complex, and maybe a range of ages that would be using the school buses? Okay, because see, that's what I was thinking, and guys, I'm sorry that I'm having to ask those questions from out there, but these are some of the things I'm not so sure our engineers and experts know. So what I'm hearing is the majority of those kids that are getting on the school bus are crossing the street, which shouldn't be crossing there anyways, because that's an unsafe place to cross. Then they have to get on a school bus there. Okay, all right, but we're saying most of the kids are coming from Mission Del Magnolia, though, right? Not from Riderwood?
Both communities.
So it's kind of even then?
So the buses come in this way and stop. What we do see is when the buses stop and the stop signs go out, people are going right past the buses. They're not stopping. So we have traffic control issues when these buses do make the stop to drop kids off and pick them up. But there are buses that stop at each of the entrances to pick up kids to go to school.
Right. Well, okay, thank you very much. I think that got me to where I'm at, is that I think we have a problem that is not actually associated with the new proposed facility. So we definitely need to get out there and do some things and take a look at what the conditions are, find out maybe from the schools what the bus, issue is there, why they are stopping at that. For instance, on the I guess that's the north side of the street, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't pull into the actually Mission Del Magnolia and load up kids there. And if they're from that side of the street, we got to find something easier, better for that side, but for the other side of the street. So that is a concern. That traffic safety is a concern of mine. And although the number of average daily trips, I think you're right. I'm not so sure that's as big a problem. For those of you who don't know, my background is in law enforcement. I spent many hours doing traffic things, writing tickets and watching intersections and you name it. So I have a pretty good idea of things that are going on out there, or used to go on out there since I retired. Not that much different, but I also drive that area a lot. I'm also on bicycle along there a lot too, so I know a lot of the traffic that goes along there and how they drive. And I know that there's certain times of the day that are busier than others, definitely. And so now here's some of the thoughts that I had as you're talking. Lighting was one of them. Thanks for bringing that up, Rob. I appreciate that. And I think that anything that is put up there, I don't think there should be any difficulty with putting a few light stands up there. If you even need that. Even if we need that, because I'm thinking that if we approve this tonight, I think there's some conditions I would like to add to it. And so this is where my recommendations add money to your project, which is what you absolutely hate. But I would think that if you're going to put the retaining wall there, then, and I don't even know what that barrier is. What's that barrier made out of on top of the retaining wall or whatever that is?
That is a screening shrub.
Come up to the microphone, please.
Yes, that is a screening shrub, actually. That's demonstrating the planting that will be on top of that wall.
So that's actually going to be live material?
It is, yes, it is live material. It is this bush shrub that is in the lower left here.
So there'd be like a planter box on top of that retaining wall?
No, it's not a box. There's just in the soil.
Okay, so behind that, the retaining wall, how much is the open space property?
There's 5 feet.
There's 5 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
From the property line to the retaining wall.
And so, there's no doubt in my mind that open space, extra space, I'm sorry, will be maintaining all the vegetation through there. And do you already have any kind of landscape maintenance agreement or scheduling? Probably a little bit early for that, I'm guessing.
I'm sure there's an existing agreement for what's there. I don't know what the conditions of that are. It obviously will change with new trees and new landscaping.
Okay, one of the things that I'm thinking about here is the traffic now that will be entering there, and even though they have to stop and get, if they don't have a place there, they've got to go in and, see the management, or since we're not queuing, my guess is they have some type of device to open the gate to get in. But it still creates a little bit of traffic along that side. And my concern was, if I was living there, is the noise that comes from the traffic. And we can always go off the premise that, well, between 8 and 6 o'clock in the evening, what's the big deal about traffic? Well, there are some people, like when I was a first responder, I worked graveyard shift. And you know what? I had to bear with traffic, alongside the house all the time, because when I'm trying to sleep during the day, or if I'm working a swing shift, or I'm working whatever. And so we have homes there that are 40 years old or older, I think it is. And so my question is, what's the condition of the windows and things on that side of the building? Because some of them may have not been changed out in the last 30, 20, or even 10 years. And so they have those old single pane windows there that any kind of noise can come through, or maybe they even have a very old double pane that probably has failed because probably not the highest quality was put in there. Would you guys be willing to work with, if we approve this, work with those people along there that have homes and maybe have a diminished capacity in their windows to change their windows for them to a higher quality window that would prevent noise from coming in? It's a tough question, but when you're talking about building something there that's going to make you hopefully a lot of money, you're going to be willing to, that's just one way of showing that you're willing to make sure that the people that live there have a better quality of life also, because the more money you make, the better quality of life you have also. Not to mention that will also help with any kind of reduction in the cost or, the value of their homes. Do everything you can to increase the value of their homes. Have you identified any trees on the property there, though, that your property that could be a danger? Because I know there's plenty of trees out there. I know there's one old eucalyptus tree out there that's about, probably 10 feet round. I don't know if it's 10 feet or not, but my concern is that going to fall on your building? And maybe you need to, something needs to be done with that. Have you been out there, Sam, and seen any of those? Because, we've had plenty of eucalyptus trees come down and destroy property.
So
it's kind of hard to see it all in this.
Yeah.
I've been on the site a few times. I believe all the trees that are adjacent to our property are actually across our property line, are on adjacent properties.
I get that. But what I'm thinking about is if we're going to get some cooperation between the two homeowners, and this is, for instance, that tree, it's going to fall on your building, by the way, if it falls.
Okay.
And so it may be, a good deal for you to remove that before you have to
Absolutely.
fix a building.
We're more than willing to work with our neighbors on that.
Yeah, because that falling would probably also
If they're
undermine some of the
agreeable
homes.
to having us assist them with that tree, then we'll most certainly help them with that.
Because I think that being the best neighbor possible, and this is not your first rodeo. You've heard a lot of these complaints and comments before. You may not have run into a city council that has been as willing to hold your feet to the fire. And I'm not trying to sound mean or anything like that. But I just want you to know that we have a lot of care and concern for our community, even though sometimes when we do things, it doesn't always sound like it. Okay. All right. I think I'm done asking my questions now because I have something to tell the people from Riderwood. Okay. I remember being in your position about, 23, 24 years ago. And I stood right there before this city council complaining about homes and things and streets that were going to be going by my home. And I considered the fact that there's going to be more traffic, it's going to devalue my home property, and a whole variety of things that you've all talked about tonight. And that council went ahead and approved the project, and I was pissed. And the reason why is because I said, these folks up here never listen to what any of us out there have to say. And what I found out is that, well, I was pissed enough that I ran for city council and I obviously got elected. But then what I found out, the truth of the matter is that sometimes it comes down to personal property rights. And that we as a quasi-judicial body, we have to listen, like I mentioned earlier, to testimony and evidence. And we have to make our decisions based on that, not the way we feel. And I can tell you what I've heard tonight is very heart-wrenching. And if I were you living in that neighborhood, I'd feel exactly, as a matter of fact, I feel the way you do because I've heard you. Because those are things that, are quality of life issues, if I could just use that kind of phrasing. It's all about quality of life. But I think that with our staff, our attorneys, on this council, I think for me, I haven't heard anything that tells me that they're violating any rules, that that we can infringe upon their property rights. So in my mind, I'm going to approve this project, and I'm just being as honest and forward as I can with you. But we need to make sure that these folks here, and it sounds like it, that they're willing to do whatever they have to help you folks. And here's the good part is that you can always come back to us because they're not through their entire process yet. And traffic out there has got to be mitigated in some way, so I want our staff to look at that a little bit more and see what you can do, because you're right, you do have some issues out there. Stop, sir. Stop, sir. You know what, sir? I'm going to ask you, please. You know what? Why don't you wait till after, and then I'll talk to you about it, and I'll tell you, I'll answer your questions. So, all right. Anything further?
Well, I do want to reiterate and you said quality of life, and so when you're talking about the conditions you'd like to see, I'd also like to understand what the hours were before.
Well, we can condition those hours, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
can
so,
we?
I mean, I think I kind of share Councilmember Koval's question about where this is going, because I'd like to be more specific on the conditions that you would like to add if you do add them. What I've heard thus far is a condition that would require some kind of window retrofit program. There's a condition that would require that the lighting along the access road be, if feasible, facing toward the building and not toward the residences, and certainly screened and all that, which is already a condition. I've also heard that, and maybe Mayor, you can provide a little more clarity, but there was a commitment from the applicant to provide assistance for certain trees that may be problematic. And then direction to staff to investigate the buses, where they stop, and general traffic in that area. So those are the ones that I have, and then Councilmember Koval, with regard to the hours, I think that probably there needs to be more discussion about that. The hours are what they proposed, but this is a conditional use permit, so you can impose conditions that you believe are necessary to allow you to make the findings you need to make to adopt a conditional use permit. So those could include addressing those questions. I would assume that you'd want to have some discussion with the applicant about, what's going to work for them as well as what's going to work for the community, but that's for you to decide.
Okay, here's something I'm thinking, is that, every minute you're delayed, it costs you money, I get that. But I think that what we should do maybe is bring this back after we get some information about traffic and things out there, and we can have some more dialogue, and before we actually vote on it. Are you open to that?
I actually think that we can discuss it right now and get it done. I agree.
Well, we can't do the studies right now, and we can't get
The studies have been done. The studies that are required have been done. The issue that I'm hearing is we have people that are already breaking laws that are in existence with regards to buses. When those stop signs pop out, they're supposed to stop. That's not happening. So that's a law enforcement issue that we've got to get more patrols out there and taking care of that, because that has nothing to do with this project in particular. This project existed long before that. The buses existed forever. It's just they're not following the laws that already exist. So enforcement, which back to people running red lights, it's enforcement. That needs to be done. The hours, I agree with that, though, that maybe that should be mitigated. 10 o'clock sounds a bit late to me as well.
It's late.
I would think 8 o'clock, because a lot of them, I've been in 3 different storage facilities or had 3 different storage facilities, and usually it's the end time is dusk, but that changes if it's summertime or wintertime, which made it crazy for me because I didn't know what dang time they'd consider dusk at any season. So I would prefer an hour specific, whether that be 8 o'clock, 7 to 8, or 7 a.m., no earlier than 7 a.m., no later than 8 p.m., all year long, so people understand what time that the project is actually open. It's easier to do business in that manner. But if that's acceptable, because that's typically, you can't do construction work till 8 p.m., but you can't start before 7 a.m.
Right. We have a noise ordinance, and look, of all the things that could go in to a commercial spot, RV storage, you don't visit RV storage that much. You go in, you pay your monthly bill, and then when you move, it's not one of those high volume, high traffic kind of facilities for sure. That being said, sound travels more at night.
Yep.
It is next to residences, which storage units sometimes are, definitely where my side of town where I live. We have plenty of infill projects in District 3, so we're very familiar with what you're going through. And so a reasonable set of hours, once 450 new units are added, makes sense to me. And I'm not sure how early they were open. 6 a.m. seems very early, so 7 to 8 seems reasonable to me.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to add that the vast majority of the units that we're adding, they're going to be enclosed within this building. And so any and all traffic is going to be inside that enclosed building and not going to be generating any sound.
So the car actually goes inside of a building?
Well, obviously the vehicle does not.
Okay, so that's the issue.
Inside.
I understand. Yeah, I still stand where I stand on the noise.
Okay.
Or sit where I sit.
Thank you.
So that's reasonable to me.
Me too, 7 to 8.
Well, can I just clarify? So the proposed hours for the storage office operating hours, are 9:30 to 6 o'clock, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5:30 on Saturday. I believe that's correct, right?
That is correct.
And then the storage facility access, so not office, but when they can go in, would be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday. So I
And we
just
want
want
to
to
change the
clarify.
access
Yes.
from
To what time?
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
No, I'm not going to have you come back up, Ben. Sorry. We'll talk about it after, later. Well,
This isn't the last vote.
pardon me?
This isn't the last vote. This isn't the last we're going to hear.
Yeah, this is not actually the last vote on this thing. So there'll be other hearings, and we can always bring it back anytime, pretty much. So do you kind of got all that?
I mean, I understand the conditions you want to add. We don't intend to bring something back, but we could if there's problems with working out the conditions.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So in that sense, yes. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think unless there's something else, it's those that I mentioned. Window retrofit, lighting along the access road to ensure that it's not shining in the residences. The issue with assistance with the trees and now the hours, which are now very clear. I think those are the 4 added conditions that would go into the resolution, be part of the condition of development, and then you've given direction to staff to look at those issues regarding existing traffic and enforcement of existing traffic rules.
Okay. All right then. James, you got all that?
Yes, and I'm sure if I don't, Sandy has been taking copious notes.
And it's all recorded.
Yeah.
All right then. I have a motion.
Motion to approve.
For a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion carries with 3 yes votes. Councilmember Trotter absent and Councilmember Hall abstained.
Thank you. Yeah, let's be in touch. And we've got just a little bit more to do here, so if you want to hang out, I'll talk to you guys afterwards. That takes us to item number 14, which is public hearing on the adoption of the resolution amending the Transnet Local Street Improvement Program for fiscal year 2026 through 2030 to align with the Regional Transportation Improvement Plan, also known as the RTIP or RTIP, with the proposed capital improvement program budget and finding the action is not a project capital improvement, excuse me, subject to the California Environmental Quality Act. Any speaker slips?
No speaker, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. This item is regarding adoption of a resolution to amend the Transnet Local Street Improvement Program for the upcoming fiscal years 2026 through 2030. The Regional Transportation Improvement Program, also known as RTIP, is a 5-year investment program managed by SANDAG to identify projects to fund throughout the San Diego region. In addition to Transnet-funded projects, the RTIP also includes state and federally funded projects as well. The Transnet ordinance requires jurisdictions to hold a public hearing and obtain approval through a resolution each year when funding changes are made to Transnet projects. Through this item, staff is requesting to amend the funding allocation for its Transnet local street improvement projects, which includes the pavement repair and rehabilitation project, the Regional Arterial Management System, which is our regional signaling traffic signal system, and lastly, the pavement roadway maintenance project. Other non-Transnet funded projects programmed into the RTIP include traffic signal upgrades, smart traffic signals, Cuyamaca Street right turn lanes, which is currently in construction, and broadband infrastructure improvements. Funding is estimated by SANDAG each year, and local jurisdictions are then required to update funding allocations and amend the RTIP based on SANDAG's revised Transnet revenue estimates. The City of Santee's revised estimate provided by SANDAG is shown here on this slide for fiscal years 2026 through 2030. The Transnet local street improvement programs that will be amended to include updated revenue estimates include the pavement repair and rehabilitation project and pavement roadway maintenance projects. Staff recommends council conducts the public hearing and following public testimony, adopt the resolution amending the Transnet local street improvement program of projects for fiscal years 2026 through 2030 to align the RTIP with the proposed capital improvement program budgets. This concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks. We don't have any speaker slips. Council, questions, comments? All right, then, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Choose one. Choose one, James. Let's vote. Good job.
Thanks.
Did you get that?
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
I didn't hear who made the second.
I heard Councilmember Koval.
Sounds good.
Okay, that takes us item number 15, new business. Resolution awarding the construction contract to Eagle Paving LLC for the citywide slurry seal and roadway maintenance program 2025. Let's see, it's a project, and determining the project is categorically, holy moly, exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This item before you is the second pavement project staff is bringing before you. The first one being the crack seal project, and that work is beginning or will begin shortly. This is part of our annual pavement program that we bring back to you every year and the construction that we do over the summer. The city clerk received 2 bids on May 1st, 2025. The lowest responsive and responsible bid was received by Eagle Paving LLC in the amount of $906,350. Good news is that was 12% lower than the engineer's estimate, which we're pretty happy for. Prices continue to go up, and the fact that it came in under a little bit is a testament to all the hard work from the staff putting a good program and bid package together. Staff recommends City Council award the construction based on being responsive and responsible to Eagle Paving. And we're also recommending City Council authorize change orders in a total amount not to exceed $100,000, which is 12% of the contract amount for unseen items and additional work. Staff will be looking at any additional funding after any change orders are authorized and picking a neighborhood based on the current priority list. We don't know that until we actually get to that point, but it'll be on the priority list that's been prepared and brought before City Council back in February. Here are the 3 bids. Surprisingly, both of them were underneath the engineer's estimate of $1,017,000. Here's the 2 streets, and again, we're only doing 2 streets primarily because Finita Drive is a very long and costly street to do repairs on. A lot of patching, a lot of concrete work associated with it. That's why there's such a large price tag. And then also finishing a small section of slurry that wasn't completed with the last paving contract underneath the SR 52 on Cuyamaca Street. That was primarily, we intended to do that work, but permitting through Caltrans gets a little difficult and we didn't get the permit in time. That's why we're recommending finishing that up. That'll complete the section of Cuyamaca from the southern city limits all the way to Mission Gorge Road. With that, staff is recommending council adopt the resolution awarding the construction contract to Eagle Paving in the amount of $906,350. Authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents to execute the contract on behalf of the city, and authorizing the director of engineering, city engineer, to approve change orders not to exceed $100,000, and determine action is categorically exempt from CEQA. And with that, staff are available for any questions.
I do not have any speaker slips, but I do have a question, since we're talking about Finita, and generally a slurry seal in my opinion, doesn't fix a lot of the little potholes and alligatoring and stuff like that. So, because we know that especially north of Prospect, north of Prospect, there's some really bad. Are those going to be actually cut out, scraped out, and then repaved?
Yeah, all the failed and inadequate sections will be dug out, repaved prior to applying the slurry seal. This is a method rather than a full reconstruction. A full reconstruction of this would be in the neighborhood of 4 times as much, 2 to 4 times as much. This is a strategy we've been using, and it's been working very well. So we'll remove all those bad structural sections and rough sections to the best of our ability and the best of contractor's ability, and then we'll be applying the slurry and the final coats over the top.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment about construction over on Fanita Drive. Are those, I don't know if they're condos or townhomes or whatever, are they done now?
They're still under construction. They're getting closer. All the building permits were issued and they're in construction. I don't know the status of occupancy or anything at this time, but we can get back to you with some more information on that. I think there's like 14 of them, 14 units on the, east side down there.
Okay. And I heard, I think on the prior, I should have asked before, but is the right turn lane on Cuyamaca actually under construction right now?
Yeah, it's, we're working on MTS permits, a bit of a hang up getting some of that because we have to go under the trolley line. We're doing some conduit work there to improve the pedestrian and traffic signal coordination, which requires us to get a permit through MTS, and that little bit of a hang up on that.
Okay.
Otherwise, we would be under construction.
Okay.
Let me know if you have any problems with that.
Will do, thank you.
Sound like you just did.
Well, let me rephrase it. Write it down, send it to me, and I'll hand it to her. If you do it tonight, I'll hand it to
I
her.
think a little bit's kind of on our contractor side as well. They were a little late in getting some of the documents together, but I think we're making progress and we hope to break ground. Steve, when do you think?
Good.
With the jack and bore.
Good, thank you. All right, then, is there a motion in a second?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, please vote.
Motion carries unanimous with council members present.
Thank you. That takes us to item number 16, an ordinance amending Chapter 2.40 of the Santee Municipal Code pertaining to contribution limits. James.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. Section 2.40.060 of the Santee Municipal Code provides the ability to adjust the campaign contribution limit to reflect changes in the Consumer Price Index rounded to the nearest $50 on or after January 2nd of an odd number year. This section was last adjusted by Ordinance 532 in 2015, setting the limit at $700. As outlined in the agenda packet and shown on this slide, based on the Consumer Price Index for the years between 2015 and 2024, the current rounded limit would be $1,000. If council adopts the ordinance tonight, or adopts the ordinance, the prohibition of other contributions would remain unaltered by this increase. Staff would recommend that the council conduct the first reading of the ordinance and set second reading and adoption for May 28th, 2025. And then on a final note, this will be added to the clerk's office calendar so every odd number year it's actually looked at in a proper fashion and brought back on a regular basis as it should be, instead of waiting the 10 years that it's been since it was last looked at.
Right. Any speaker slips?
No, sir.
I do have a comment. Something I'd like to see you bring back also between now and the next reading is take a look at continuity, the equitable distribution of funds. And what I mean by that is you have about 8,000 voters roughly per district. And so now each council member can get $1,000 and for a very small area but you're requiring the mayor to get $1,000 for 4 times the area, so to speak, because it covers the entire city. There has to be some kind of equity in geographics, or I don't really know what to call it, to be honest. But we have to look at that to make sure that whoever the next person is that runs for mayor, because we know it's not going to be me, is able to compete.
So bring back something that looks at a separate limit for the mayor seat.
Yes. Yeah. Sean?
Yeah, I can work with the clerk to do that. I think it's appropriate, as you mentioned, to go forward with this one, and then we'll bring back some information at the second reading. Then you can give us some direction, and then we'll craft an ordinance around that direction. That's what I would recommend.
That's exactly what I'm asking. Okay. Any comments, council members? Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Is there
Second.
a second? Okay. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously with council members present.
Thank you. That takes us to the next section of non-agenda public comment. Speaker slips?
No, sir.
Thank you. Council reports? Ron? Vice Mayor?
None for me, sir.
Laura?
I don't have a report, but I have a question. Are all the homes built on Miracle Lane done? Is all the construction complete?
No, not completely. There's still the sales office parking lot. I think there's one more unit left to be built, and final occupancy on the final building, I don't believe, has been issued in the back corner. So there's still a little bit of work left to do.
Okay. I was asked that question by a member of the public. They were under the assumption all of them were done, and so I just wanted some clarification.
No, there's still a single-family home where the sales office parking lot is left to be built that's approved by council.
Okay.
And they usually do that at the end when they sell the model units and close out.
And then how long after occupancy will that road be opened?
Once all the punch lists and all the public improvements are done to the satisfaction of the engineering and planning department and building department, then we'll bring an item back to accept the improvements and then open the road at council's direction of acceptance of the improvements for the public road. We could open it earlier if council would desire. We don't
I just
typically
was
do that.
curious. I get asked questions, as you can imagine, so.
Correct.
Okay.
So the only thing I have to report out is that Sandag, we had a 2-day retreat about a week and a half ago, and actually was pretty good. We discussed all the items, like for instance today, the money that's coming in from the transportation funds. And it was very interesting to hear folks talking about working more collaboratively. And for instance, you hear a lot about transportation as it pertains to transit versus expansion of roadways and things that were brought to us, in early days of Transnet. And there's a big swing in the board of directors, and they want to fulfill all those promises that were made a long time ago to fix the roadways and maintain those versus spending the extra billions of dollars first that we don't have on transit or other things that are going to take probably another 30 years to get to anyways. League of California Cities, I was in Sacramento also in the last month on that. We met with quite a few of our legislators to talk about some of the bills that have been introduced that are very bad for our communities. For instance, the biggest one is SB 79, or Assembly Bill SB 79. And that would allow for any developer to has, or even MTS, if they have property next to a bus stop or a transit stop, they could actually build a 7-story building with hundreds of homes in it and not even come before a city council.
We're doing that already, by the way.
Yeah, and other communities.
Yeah.
So we're trying to.
Yeah.
We're trying to stop that before it gets off the ground. There's some other good bills out there, but we could go on for hours for that, so I'm not going to. Just to let you know, we've been talking about a lot of that stuff. So anyways, that's all I have.
Yeah, Palm Avenue, and they're building one in El Cajon. They're building one in, they did the Grantville, which is which is actually really nice down there. But so they're working their way up through Lemon Grove, La Mesa, and Spring Street's putting one in, and there's about 300 units on average.
Should build that wall soon. Build the wall soon. Keep them out. Heather.
Nothing to report.
Great. Counselor.
No report.
Great, thank you. So that includes all items on the agenda, so therefore we will be adjourning in memory of Mike Clark.